On December 31st, hundreds of supporters of an Iranian-backed militia broke into the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad. Video, including some taken by the Post's Mustafa Salim, showed chaos on the ground. Demonstrators were protesting the U.S. airstrikes on December 29th that killed 25 members of the Iranian-backed Hezbollah militia. The strikes were in retaliation against a rocket attack on a base in northern Iraq that killed a U.S. contractor.
What we're seeing here is supporters of the militia, the Kataib Hezbollah militia. They are marching on the US Embassy in the heavily guarded green zone. They have very high walls, they have a lot of security, iron gates, a lot of guards. It had never been imagined that this embassy could be breached. But the protesters did manage to smash down one of the gates, and they got through a steel door, they got through bulletproof glass, and they set fire to it and burned it. The Iraqi security forces throughout all of this made no attempt to stop them from reaching either the embassy or from attacking this building. In fact, some were seen joining in the attack. Later in the day, the Prime Minister appealed to the protesters not to actually go into the embassy and called on the security forces to protect the facility. And Iraqi security forces at that point did intervene, and they set up a sort of buffer between the demonstrators and the diplomats inside. The diplomats, meanwhile, are trapped inside the embassy. They are in a reinforced safe area, one of the diplomats told me, but he refused to give any more details than that.
A spokesman for Kataib Hezbollah said the crowd would besiege the embassy until the facility shuts down and U.S. diplomats and troops leave Iraq. Despite the barricade, people outside periodically threw Molotov cocktails into the compound and tried to tear down the razor wire on top of the walls. Inside, Iraqi and American guards fired stun grenades and tear gas respectively to disperse the crowd. Defense Secretary Mark T. Esper announced that 2 Apache helicopters and a small contingent of Marines would be sent as reinforcements. The Pentagon shared video of Marines preparing to deploy to Iraq from Kuwait.
This all began much earlier in the year as part of the bigger rivalry between Iran and America in the Middle East. It began really with President Trump's maximum pressure campaign of sanctions against Iran. Iran has been pushing back against that anywhere that it can find to sort of tweak the Americans. Iraq has really been trapped between Iran and the United States ever since the US invaded Iraq in 2003. That brought Shiites, Iran's co-religionists in Iraq, to power in the government in Baghdad, and it brought a heavy level of Iranian influence into Iraq. And what we've seen in these recent years is that influence has grown enormously. And the main way the Iranians wield their influence is through these armed militias that are very loyal to Iran. And these militias have become the most powerful military and political force in the country, which is what we saw today, because the Iraqi security forces stood aside and let them attack the American embassy like this. They did not attempt to impede them in any way.
As the sun began to set, militia supporters set up tents for the night outside the compound. Video also showed U.S. helicopters flying in the vicinity of the embassy and launching flares.